Hi, Ryan. Very nice to meet you and welcome to Polysphere.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you.
Okay, and to start, could you share what you find most exciting about blockchain games?
Sure. So for background, one, thank you for having me. I'm Ryan. I lead gaming here at Polygon. My background has, before Web3 gaming, was in mobile gaming and monetizing mobile games. And the reason why I like gaming overall is that, first and foremost, it's just a very underrated and undervalued industry. It's larger than, the Hollywood box office, the entire music industry, and yet somehow the gaming industry flies under the radar. But what I think is most interesting about gaming is that gamers tend to be a very community-oriented, feedback-driven group of people. And so you see that with games, a lot of new technologies and business models originate in games because games are really good testing grounds. Gamers, provide feedback. They are technical. They can try new things and be really helpful to developing ideas that have long-lasting power. And so for me, that's what I think is most interesting about games generally. And then when you add in blockchain, you add in, NFTs and tokens and this idea of real ownership, it transforms what traditional gaming can be into this future in which it's not just about the game developer. It is about the game developer, the gamers, the community, and everybody that can take part and iterate in the gaming experience. New ways of creating user-generated content, new business models that are sure to pop up. So I think blockchain gaming in a lot of ways is kind of at the crux of a lot of other Web3 crypto experiences. It's related to DeFi, it's related to consumer social, and gaming just happens to be that prime testing ground to experiment.
There's a lot of buzz about blockchain gaming and, combining NFTs and a lot of stuffs. And blockchain gaming is becoming more and more popular. But it is true that we have limited users. So we have to attract Web2 developers or players into our industry. So I think there are still, builders of blockchain games, there's still a struggle to attract mainstream players. So what do you think is the biggest hurdle?
I do think that user acquisition is important and figuring out how do you balance attracting Web3 degens, people that understand the complexity of onboarding into a Web3 experience. They understand, what it takes to have your own wallet, all of that. It's balancing going after those individuals with traditional Web2 gamers. And the problem is that quite simply, there just isn't any one blockchain game that is simply fun and can compete with the traditional Web2 games. The Call of Duties, the World of Warcrafts, there just isn't a title yet. And it's not that I don't think any of the titles have that potential. It's just, it takes a lot of time. It takes many years. It takes a lot of capital to launch a very solid game. And we just don't have one yet. And I've been working in Web3 gaming for 4 years now, and there's a lot of great talent, and there will be, I think, a title or two that can capture Web2 attention and seem on par with some of these traditional games. We're just not there yet. So I think it's a bit of a chicken and the egg situation where prioritizing user acquisition tactics and growth strategies to get users is very important for Web3 games, but it's going to be very hard and near impossible to attract Web2 gamers if you don't have an experience that is just fun up front. So I think with time we will see that. But right now we're at an inflection point where there are some titles that have a lot of promise. They just need to fully launch, get rid of all of the bugs, the kinks, and be in a position where Web2 gamers are excited and they're not, complaining about the NFT or blockchain elements. And so I think that time is coming. I'd like to say in the next year.
Oh, next year. It's coming soon.
Coming soon. I mean, we'll see. That's what... based off of all of the amazing developers that I speak to on a daily basis, seeing a lot of, the betas and alphas in production, I do think that we're coming upon that time.
That's fantastic. And also, you've talked about Web 2.5, as a key trend in the gaming world. So balancing the traditional games with blockchain tech. So can you explain this idea a little bit more?
Yeah, I think the idea of Web 2.5 games are games that can onboard some people into Web3. They can have them have a user understanding what it takes to, have a wallet,
Mhm.
buy an NFT, own that NFT, utilize that NFT, maybe burn it. That is kind of the Web 2.5. There's a few games that are fully on chain where all of the game mechanics, everything exists on chain.
Mhm.
Personally, right now, in my opinion, I think those games are really iterative. They're really
Mhm.
interesting. They're really good for pushing technology to its limits. But in
Mhm.
attracting more mainstream users, you don't necessarily need to have every single piece of data on chain. And so that's where Web
Mhm.
2.5 comes into place, where a user can experience the ownership, but
Mhm.
not necessarily have to have the entire experience live on chain. And so that middle ground is where I think we're seeing a lot of development. And Web 2.5 for gaming in particular tends to be more mobile. Mobile games are quick to iterate, they're not as expensive. You can push it out fast and get feedback. And so a lot of these experiences that are like Web 2.5 seem
Mhm.
to be in that middle ground where it's casinos and slots and like Angry Bird-esque type games that get
Mhm.
people comfortable with the experience without making it feel total degen, if that makes sense.
Angry Bird, it's my childhood memory.
Same.
Okay, we can move on to the next topic, which is, on-chain games are quite complex. How does Polygon make sure transactions are processed efficiently and securely? Could you give us some specific examples?
Yeah, so I would say, to be honest, so you kind of alluded to it. There's really not that many Web3 gamers. There's
Mm,
maybe 200,000. Um,
200,000.
I would say. I used to work at Axie Infinity. At one point, we had 3 million MAU, but
Mm,
there's a very small subset. So when we talk about like the infrastructure that's needed, it really isn't. None of the Polygon infrastructure, like our proof of stake chain, it hasn't been pushed to the limits yet. There's not
mhm,
enough volume. There's not enough transactions. There's not enough power that's needed to power existing Web3 games. So I would say it's proof of stake, which is where a lot of our ecosystem currently exists. Like, it is battle tested. We haven't seen any game come close to pushing those limitations. With that
mhm,
said, the Polygon roadmap is really focused on this idea of ZK
mhm,
powered app chains. And so as projects, identify that they want to build their own like app chain ecosystem, they want to launch a token. We have our chain development kit, or CDK, which is an open source toolkit that allows game developers or really anybody to build their own ZK powered L2.
mhm,
And the customizability in terms of roll up or Validium mode, designing for data availability solutions, controlling the types of on chain configurations like tokens. These are all things that, to be honest, right now are not necessarily necessary. There's no game that, has 100 million users and needs insane throughput. But with time, as some of these games become more mainstream, as we see more Web2 users onboarding, I think we'll see more adoption of, app chain ecosystems. So more to come. But right now, the Polygon tech stack has been, thriving with our current ecosystem and game partners.
Okay. And really, Polygon's tech stack really make a progress and to be a infrastructure of the gaming. And I think the recently ended Game On event can prove that. So, are there any standout Web 2.5 games? What you've mentioned, and from this event. And looking forward, which types of blockchain games do you think will be most successful?
Yeah, we've had tons. I would say with our recent Game On campaign, Polygon across the Polygon ecosystem, also coupled with
Mhm.
Immutable, we probably have 80% of blockchain games across the entire industry. So we have tons, and I don't want to like call out any and forget others. But I would
Mhm.
say most recently we've seen success with, we have actual game studios. We
Mhm.
have Wilder World, we have Matrix, we have Moonveil, we have Midnight Society, we have Planet Mojo. I'm gonna miss many more, but we have a lot of successful games that come from, real builders, real game
Mhm.
developers that have worked for decades in the traditional Web2 space. And so being able to feature those games during our Game On campaign was really exciting. But I would say also beyond just, games themselves, we have a lot of really interesting questing and infra partners like Forge and Galaxy and others that are help driving the growth narrative and help contributing to getting gamers to play Web3 games. And so across like the infra side and the gaming side, we have, you know, a lot of experiences that fall directly into that Web 2.5 bucket that we're really excited about.
I'm curious, is there some gaming, combining with AI?
Yeah, it's like the topic of conversation right now. I'm seeing a lot of developers that are using AI for a lot of things like content generation. So like basically having AI replace the need for junior art directors. And so you can create new worlds, new maps, new experiences a lot more quickly through AI. We're seeing AI for NPCs within the games. But I'd say a lot of the AI right now is just helping with the generation of content and experiences in a much more quick way than before.
Do you think that combining with AI gonna be very competitive compared to other gamings because the narrative of AI can get a lot of attractions?
Yeah, I think if you are trying to raise money, and a lot of games are, then having AI in your pitch deck somewhere is probably doing you more benefit than harm. I don't know. At the end of the day, gaming though, like you need to have a good product. You need to have an experience that's fun. And like that really is all that matters. And so you can have AI, you can have, you can have the coolest technology, but if people don't want to play your game, then it doesn't matter anyways. So I'd say from like a fundraise, like getting eyeballs perspective, like having AI somewhere in there is definitely interesting, but I wouldn't say it poses an existential threat to a game that doesn't have that doesn't incorporate it in some way.
Okay. When you say it is a good gaming product, blockchain gaming product, what kind of a gaming product they're gonna be? What kind of element they got, or they have very user-friendly experience or something. So in your opinion, what kind of gamings, do you think is the best gaming, blockchain gaming?
When you say what kind of games, do you mean specifically titles, genres? What in particular?
Oh, just some gaming that makes people very popular and people loves to use, or in your idea that it is very fancy idea and people gonna love it in the future. Yeah, in your opinion, what kind of blockchain games you prefer most and you love to use, or you think that they got more potentials?
So for me personally, I've been a mobile gamer for a while. I've not really been a console player. So for me, playing some of the more casual, hyper casual blockchain games, I think is fun. When I'm on the subway, playing, like a variation of poker, that's just more my vibe. I would say I could speak on behalf of a lot of people. If the onboarding experience into a Web3 game has me jumping through 10 different steps of, tying my Twitter account and opening a wallet and then downloading something and then spending money, the more steps that there are for a blockchain game, the less likely me personally, I'm going to play it. And I work in the industry. And so I think if you think of just any traditional regular person who's a gamer or not, you have very few steps that they're willing to jump through before they're going to give up. So for me personally, that's why I like mobile games. I've tried some of, the desktop games, and it's just clunky still. And I'm not going to like call out names in particular. It's just where the technology's at. It's time consuming and takes upwards sometimes of an hour to get started on a game. And I simply don't have time for that. And a lot of other people don't. So I find myself gravitating towards more of these like fun GameFi experiences that aren't necessarily traditional games, but combine the social, combine, fun little games, very, surface level.
That's cool. I hope one day I can play some blockchain gaming on my phone on the subway.
You can. I'll give you some recommendations.
Very happy that I can try it. Good user experience is very crucial for the blockchain gaming. And how do you view the economic models in blockchain gaming? In blockchain games, there are a lot of examples before that they have the bubbles and crashes in the end. So how can we create a sustainable economic system to prevent this kind of bubbles and crashes we've seen before?
Yeah, I think the reason why there's not the reason, but one of the reasons why there's these crashes is because the current games, a lot of them are built towards speculators, built towards people that are just trying to get in, make money, and leave. And so that's what's ultimately contributing to these crashes. I think that there's a few things that game developers need to keep in mind. Underratedly important is just effective treasury management. Just ensuring that, like, the number of projects that I've spoken to that have just mismanaged or spent funds in a way that is not conducive to, operating a business is kind of crazy. And so really just understanding like traditional economic models for generating revenue, like how are you going to do that? Is it through transaction fees, in-game purchases? Are there other monetization strategies? And really just ensuring that you have like one person that really understands how to manage effectively the treasury. And then I think tokens are definitely, everyone wants to launch a token. And I think that makes sense. And it could make sense, it can provide ownership or some sort of utility, maybe like some sort of governance. But I think really understanding why you're launching a token and for what is the purpose is really important. And just having, a token for the sake of having a token, it might get you some speculators short term, but long term, it's not necessarily going to lead to a sustainable game. And these are things that I spend most of my time talking to developers about. It's like, how do you balance an economy for the short term? How do you create an incentive that gets people wanting to buy your NFTs, to contribute to the hype on crypto Twitter? But a lot of those people aren't necessarily gamers. And so balancing that with a strategy that will attract people that actually want to hold on to their assets, that actually want to grind in the game and level up is a really hard thing to do. And I don't think that anyone has cracked that code yet. So I think more to come, but it's definitely, we're going to see more and more, tokenomics advisors, people that specialize in economics and tokens and can come in and kind of advise on these ecosystems, because right now I would say there really isn't one perfect model that anyone has really found.
Yeah, it makes sense and great to hear that there are more sustainable models available. And I think when our interview released, there will be some people want to reach out to Polygon. They want to deploy some gaming on Polygon. So is there some, Polygon, does Polygon offer specific programs or resources to help the people, whether they are in Web3 or they're in Web2, they're just want to join into the Web3 industry? And does Polygon offer some specific programs or resources to help them? Or what should these developers focus on?
Are you asking more specific, like Web2 developers?
Yes, more about the Web2 developers.
Yeah, I would say so. We have tons of documentation online. Polygon has everything that you could need to know about like onboarding onto proof of stake that you could possibly want. And so if anybody has any questions on how can we get started, feel free to reach out. More than happy to direct you to all of our library of resources. I would say right now, my job is not to convince a Web2 developer to build in Web3. My job and that of my team is to work alongside developers that believe in blockchain. They're sold on it. They understand the value proposition. And now they need a little bit more support on going all in. So I would say if you are Web2, you're really Web2 native, you don't understand Web3, you don't understand what blockchain does or any of the value, do some research first. Because we really want to help scale projects that understand the value proposition of Web3 and are now looking to take it to the next step. They want to focus on user acquisition. They want to focus on growth tactics. They want to expand. So that's really where our sweet spot is, I would say right now.
Oh, if there are a lot of Web3 gaming builders, what would you suggest them to focus on?
It's a hard question because it depends. It depends on what type of game, what type of project, what are the strengths of the team, where on the roadmap are they? Like there are so many considerations there. I think back on the topic of attracting Web2 gamers, the real focus for most games right now that I speak to is on user acquisition. Games are, okay, how do I get from 1,000 users to 20,000 users per day? And so experimenting with different regions where they're going to launch, really understanding the target market. Like just because it's like a first party shooter game, like who are you really attracting? What type of user? Really nailing that down. And then just like traditional go to market, like crypto Twitter is not necessarily the be all end all when it comes to marketing Web3 game. Most people that are on crypto Twitter are not real gamers. They want to make some money. And so really helping developers nail down their marketing strategy is really where I'd say a lot of the work is being done right now. And there's tons of ecosystem projects that are helping with that. You have like projects like Stardust, I mentioned Forge, you have KOL and influencer programs like Moku. There's a lot of supporting partners that help in the growth journey, and really identifying which ones are most helpful for the projects is where we're spending a lot of our time. We've seen tons of games get funding and actually, be heads down building. Now is the time to attract people. And so it's funny because the Web2 developers that are, now in Web3, they understand user acquisition. They understand how do you attract more mainstream gamers, but they don't necessarily understand the Web3 mentality of balancing, going after those people that are going to talk about you on crypto Twitter. And then on the other hand, you have the Web3 native developers that understand crypto Twitter. They understand how to speak to the Web3 native audiences, but they don't know the first thing about user acquisition. And so depending on that archetype of developer, we're coming in and advising and helping and saying, here are the projects, here are the types of companies that you should be partnering with in order to scale.
Yeah, it's really good advice. And for the Web2 developers, they have to focus on, how the Web3 players like to get from gaming. And for the Web3 builders, they have to know, what is real gaming.
Exactly right.
Okay, looking to the future, how do you think blockchain games will shape gaming industry's trends, and what part will Polygon play in this? And what major developments do you expect in blockchain games over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think I kind of alluded to, or I flat out said this at the beginning. I love gaming because games are the perfect environment to iterate and test new technologies. And blockchain is no different. And so when you think of what a blockchain game is, it's not just like a fun experience that, you play and you win. It's so much more than that. And the term metaverse is so overplayed now. But what is a metaverse? In my opinion, a metaverse is a game. A metaverse is an experience that's really fun, that attracts people. Whether you're playing, you're selling, you're buying things, whatever it is, it starts as a game. And then you add in social features. You can chat with your friends. Maybe then you can transact. So maybe there's like payment rails. And then there's user-generated content where people can create new experiences on top of that. That's what I envision blockchain games becoming what 3 years ago people were saying is the metaverse. That's what I think is the future. I think there will be one ecosystem, or maybe many, that just suck all of your time because it becomes this digital world of not just fun and games, but social interactions and more. And I think gaming is also interesting because it does combine social. It is, in a way, DeFi. It really is the melting pot of all of these different verticals within Web3. But it also combines a lot of technologies. And so that's what I'm excited to see, is just one or two titles that really resonate in like the cultural psyche and get people almost like a Roblox, living not their day-to-day life, but like spending a lot of their time in this one place where it's not just a game, but it's so much more. What exactly that looks like, I don't know, because it hasn't been done yet. But I think in the next like 3 to 5 years, there will just be an experience that takes, the world by storm. And it won't necessarily be considered a game, but it'll start as a game. It will be like Yeah, I think Roblox is kind of how I envision it. That's my own personal opinion. I don't know if that's true, like catch me in 5 years, but that's kind of where I think blockchain games will go. And I don't think it's going to be every blockchain game, but I think they're really the most popular and impressive experiences are going to be much more than a game. And it's going to be like a cultural phenomenon, like a Facebook type of experience. And then other games, smaller games, first party shooters or MMORPGs will all still exist, more like, for day to day. But I think that there is potential for one blockchain game to really just become this wide stream phenomenon.
Yeah, that is a great vision to see. I don't know other, countries, but in China, we live on WeChat.
Yep.
I think in the future, there's going to be a gaming plus a social platform that we live on that.
100%. China it's funny because, the super apps in Asia, like we don't have that in the States. And you guys are ahead of us in that. So I think first we in the West need to like get to a WeChat experience, and then it will be kind of what you just outlined, which is like WeChat meets social and gaming and everything else. But that's pretty much how I see it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We live on WeChat because we talk on WeChat, and we can pay by WeChat.
Yep.
And we can post our posters live on WeChat. Also, there are shopping apps in WeChat, and everything can deploy on WeChat. I think if there are gaming and combining with WeChat kind of stuff, it's gonna be very, very interesting. And hope that there's gonna be something happen on Polygon first.
Yeah, let's hope.
And very exciting to see that. Okay, and thanks Ryan for your time and for your insights about gaming and about the Polygon gaming, Web3 gaming, and the total the gaming industry. And we learned a lot, and hope that our community loves your insights as well, and may everything about you and Polygon a great success. Thank you for your time.
Kristen. It was so nice meeting you.